Does your currency tab look something like this on average? The closest you have to an exalt is one exalted shard you got from a random map one time. You have a total of 6 chaos to your name, and one of your most beloved and prized possessions is the bricked tabula that sits in the spare slot in your currency tab. Well, today I hope to be able to provide some advice and some tips on how to get yourself started with the base of currency, and hopefully you can attain some of these. This will be a basics on how to get a good starter of currency. Nothing in depth, and there won't be any 10x per hour or anything like that methods in this video. This is for people who have recently gotten to the endgame and are unsure of how to really start getting a base of currency to get key items for your build and to potentially use currency generating methods that do require some investment, such as scarabs or sextants, things like that. Above all though, the most important thing is just playing the game. If you're a new player, you probably won't realize how much all these other currencies, bits, and pieces add up to. So while you won't make 10 raw chaos per map, on average you will probably make more than that with the drops you'll be getting. The first tip I have is thinking where you are right now, currency and build wise. If you don't have a particularly strong build and you don't have much currency, which is where I'm going to assume you're at in this video, you're quite limited in what you can do. Depending on how far it is into the league, if you're incredibly low on currency, then the chaos recipe is honestly quite a... Just in case you don't know about the chaos recipe, the wiki has a good page for the recipe system where it says everything. So for the Chaos Orbs, you want to do the 2 Chaos Orbs one. You need item levels 60 to 74, all unidentified, or all 20% quality, but you don't want to do this. All unidentified is a lot easier. Just throw them all in, full set of gear, 2 Chaos Orbs. One of the most optimal ways of doing this as a solo player is just having a quad tab and picking up rares randomly throughout a map, but focusing especially on jewelry, as jewelry is usually the limiting factor in the Chaos recipe. If you have some decent gear and your build can do yellow plus maps though, unless it's the start of the league, I wouldn't recommend doing this, as it can slow you down quite a lot, unless you do it very efficiently. Another good low investment money making strategy would be running heist contracts. Blueprints are better to run, but they are riskier if you have a weak character, and take a bit more initial investment. The good thing about running heist from early in the end game is you get to level your heist NPCs for further use, and you can scale heist further into the end game, such as running blueprints, or you can bulk buy contracts that are of a better type. Run these for loot and sell both the loot and the markers you get. They can add up to quite a lot of money in bulk. But heist isn't for everyone, so... One interesting point I do have about heist is this is where build type can dictate to some extent what you want to play. So of course if you die after triggering the alarm in heist, you lose all the loot you have on you in your inventory from the heist. So this would make you want to lean towards something tankier, right? You'd want to be tanky and fast. You don't need particularly good damage to do heist, because there aren't too many threats, really. You don't have to really kill anything, right? You can just get the loot and get out. You will have to clear the way a bit, but you don't need, 10 million DPS to do heist or anything. This is a tip quite specific to Scourge, I guess, but just chain running maps currently is honestly pretty efficient for low investment strategies. The Scourge mechanic adding insane amounts of magic find is incredibly powerful for out and go mapping, especially if you Scourge maps and run the ones you can do. This also links into targeting a currency making method based on your build, however. If you can chain run maps with a good clear speed, then you will make a lot more than if you have a slower clear speed. As you can see in the gameplay in the background, my build clears quite fast, and as I'm using Kinetic Blast, indoor maps are much more efficient to me due to the way the skill works. But bossing is quite painful on this build unless you invest much more currency, and this is usually the case on builds that have fast clear speeds. A bit of currency and your build is starting to get stronger, you should be able to do your first few Maven steps in a region and unlock some Atlas passives. Atlas passives are amazing for adding value to your maps. I personally like the ones that are active on every single map you do in that region, such as the one in Valdo's Rest with the Harbinger and the one with Essences in Haywork Hamlet. These Atlas passives link into one of the key parts of making currency in the early endgame, which I've mentioned before. Just mapping with a decent filter and picking up all the kinds of stuff you get, such as drops, fragments, random currencies, scarabs, and interacting with most of the league contents you encounter whilst developing your Atlas. Getting your Maven levels up, unlocking your Atlas passives, and upping your bonus objectives completion for map sustain, and to gain access to easy higher tier maps are some very important factors in actually developing your endgame and giving you access to these higher tier things to potentially move over to a better strategy to make currency, more of a middle tier one with, some lower investment, but still better than none. Generally, you will earn more currency the more you invest in a strategy. Not always the case, but usually that's a pretty safe bet. So I also just want to give an example of some of the tools that you can use to help you. Two of the ones I personally think are the most important would be Excellence Next. I'll start with this one first. You download it and you put in your ID, you find it from the forums. There'll be a link below for that anyway. You create a profile, you choose what the pricing is. So, currently for this, for example, you choose the stash tabs you want to put into it. You can also choose the character and choose the inventory and equipment if you want. You make a profile and it tells you the value of what the things in those tabs are. So this is very good for assessing where your value actually is in your stash. However, it can be a bit misleading sometimes, like some div cards especially, like I have 20 of these, the tower, these will not sell for a chaos each, I'm pretty sure. So be wary of stuff like div cards and that, but it can give you an idea basically of what you can actually sell to get other actual money to use for, developing your build or whatever. Another very useful tool I have would be a trade macro. I personally use Awakened PoE Trade. One of the reasons why this is so important would be checking unique roles early on in the league. If you get uniques, you should probably identify most of them, as long as they're not absolute trash in the very early league, because if they are well rolled, then it can increase their value quite a lot. So for example, I have these Sedimas. Sedimas normally are worth not much, right? So let's have a look. Let's just price check it. 1C, 2C. But because this one is perfect, it randomly rolled 10% quantity. Let's have a look. It should be... Yeah, look, it's 30-ish chaos instead of 1 or 2. Especially in the early league, this happens quite a lot with even uniques that are even like remotely usable, as long as they're not absolute dumpster tier trash. As long as they are okay uniques, if they roll well, they can sell for pretty big money early league. So I would recommend heavily using trade macro. I like Awakened PoE Trade, but there are others. But I will leave Awakened in the link in the description for that. One of the final tips I have is something to do with, being a Hideout Warrior, as they call it. It's not actually playing the game, it's just abusing trade. So I left it towards the end because, people... I can understand completely if you don't want to do it. But it is quite easy money, especially early league before people have really started to do this too much. And you don't really need that much money to do it. So it's gonna be flipping. Now, high-end flipping is like the best way to make money in the game, but that's quite an advanced topic. There's no easy way to say just do this, but it's gonna be from the one tip I have specifically is from selling stuff in bulk for convenience. For example, what you can do is you can go into, some scarabs. So let's have a look. Rusted Legion scarab, sure. And you want to buy them for chaos. Let's see. So they're, about 2C. You could probably get some for 1C, potentially. Something like that per one. Ooh. This is unusual. Anyway, let's go for minimum stock of like 10. So, I wonder if these people are selling this, actually. Maybe this one isn't a good point at this place. There's probably too much supply with these, actually, so people don't really want them. I normally find Sulfite and Divination's pretty good. So let's have a look. So in this, they sell for about... They're that expensive now. These went up a lot since I last checked. 32 chaos per one. In bulk. So if we go to minimum stock, no minimum stock, look, they're about 25C each. So you're making about 6 chaos or so per scarab you sell. Of course, with this one, it's those are quite expensive at this point. Let's see if it holds true for this. So these cost, 6, 7C-ish. Chuck it up to minimum stock 10. These you're probably making 2 chaos-ish each. That's not so bad. Normally there's not this many people selling them in bulk. I guess it's too late on into the league at this point for this really to work with the low-cost scarabs. But especially early league, this works really well. You don't have to just do this with scarabs either. You can do this with, like, pretty much anything. You can do it with fossils, Maybe not so much oils because of how they work, but catalysts, lyrium orbs, anything like that you can buy in bulk and sell it off and you'll make a profit for the convenience, right? People don't want to trade, like, people don't want to do 30 trades for 30 scarabs. They want to do one trade for 30 and they'll pay quite a premium. It's quite well established that bulk trading is king. Selling everything in bulk is incredibly profitable. This doesn't even work for currencies as well, by the way. So if you're trading for, like, if you have something that people want but they don't generally get a lot of, like divine orbs or something, similar kind of theory. But currency's normally a little bit dodgier for that, so that's, 8C or so per divine orb. Let's have a look. Okay, yes. For some currencies it doesn't really do it so well. I would generally avoid currency unless you're doing three-way trading, but yeah, that's way too complicated for this video, so that's about it. So learning bulk is king. And if you are interested in flipping, I would recommend this plugin. It works on Chrome, that's all I know. It might work on others, but I'll leave a link to this in the description as well. It allows you to create folders and save trades effectively for another time. So a few final words. One of the key things to making money is making sure you're always doing something, whether it's developing your atlas, leveling your character up, or interacting with League content and collecting up things to use later. Always try to have some thought of what you're trying to achieve currently, and don't focus too hard on just having a goal of gaming money or farming up a headhunter, etc. Aim for smaller goals to give you something to focus on short term. Playing efficiently is also very important, but just playing the game is the key part for making money, to be honest. So try not to focus too hard on gaining currency, it will come with time. After you have a good base for currency, you can move up to a mid-investment strategy and start to gain some bigger currency per hour, which I might make a follow-up video about. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see one. Thanks for watching. Any ratings, feedback, suggestions, etc. is very welcome in the comments. Good luck!